Hey everyone, it's Diana from Adventures with Art, and today we are diving into everything that the Procreate color palette can do. All of the amazing options you can take advantage of to pick any number of colors within Procreate, which is an infinite amount. You know, you go from traditional mediums where you have your box of colored pencils and that's all the colors you're going to get, to a digital platform where you literally have access to every shade of the rainbow. So it's really something you want to learn how to use properly so you can take advantage of colors in your art to the best of your abilities. But before we get started, hit that subscribe button. Keep coming back to Adventures with Art for more Procreate tips, art tips in general, and how to make money with your art, which is never a bad thing. Also, I want to call your attention to a Skillshare class that I have a link for down in the show notes. It dives into so much more depth about palettes, color palettes, how to pick the right colors. It's really about matching colors. When you have an infinite amount of choices with digital art for your colors, it can be hard to then pick the right colors, right? Like analysis paralysis, there's so many options. This class is so valuable and really worth it if you are trying to get a grip on how to use colors and really take advantage of the amount of choices you have. There's a link for it down in the show notes. There is a free trial for Skillshare, so you can take that class absolutely free when you use that link for the free trial. That will just let you take that class and really dive into Procreate colors even more. All right, so let's get started. We're going to talk about all of the basic ways you can use colors just from their basic color panel here. So when you first open the color panel, you're just going to click on the color dot up at the top right of the screen. What you're going to first see is the disc. So how this works is that as you move the circle around the the outer circle around you, you'll have access to all of the colors of the rainbow. If you decide hey, I want red, then you can choose your specific choice of red here within the colors. Something to note is that you'll notice here up at the top, you'll actually have access to two colors. So as you'll see, the one on the left is being changed right now as I'm moving around this red panel. But if I click on that second color, I now can manipulate that second color. So that kind of just allows you to have access to two colors at a time. And if you need to pick two colors that really work well together, you can see them right next to each other. So that's a really big perk, is if you're looking for a second color there. All right, so something that's important to note here is, let's say we are choosing a color. As you can see, there is one half of the little circle that has the color in it that we are moving around, and the other side of the circle is staying stagnant as that one color. So what happens is that it will save whatever color you were using before you closed the color palette, right? So let's say I go over here and I pick like a really light blue. I close the color palette. I open it again. As you can see, that left side that stays consistent is now that light blue color. So we'll test it again. We'll go really dark this time. If I close it, I reopen it, and now I look for a new color. It's that dark color. So that's just kind of a way to keep track of what color you were using before. This is really helpful, especially if you were coloring with that color and you want to try to find something that matches it. You can see just directly next to it what color would work well with it. So that's kind of that perk of that feature. And it works for either color, right? So I was, working with this one here on the left. If I switch over to that red, it will do the same thing. So that darker color on the left is what I had been using when I was using that color option before I closed the color palette. So that can be a really helpful way to just match your colors. That will work for any of the options we have here. As you'll see, you'll always have that original color on the left there staying consistent for you to use. Another thing to note, let's go back to the disc just to look at this. If you come up here to the little line at the very top of the color palette and you just click that, it will create a smaller color palette box. You can kind of put this near your design if you want. It just makes the color palette smaller so that you can have access to it more frequently while you're actually working, which can be nice. All right, so that's the disc. Again, Just move around here, pick what shade you want, and you're good to go. Next, we have the classic. So this option kind of gives you a little more room to look at all the various shades of a certain color of the rainbow. The way you adjust the overall color is this first slider right here. And then you can either, move the dot around within the square here, or you can use the slider to pick a various gradient, and then the one down here will choose dark or light. So that's just another way to pick your colors. It really just depends on your preference. Next, we have harmony. This is a really neat one. This is actually going to show you complementary colors so that you have an easier time. I'm going to pick a lighter color here just so that we can see a little bit better. There we go. So that way you have an easier time knowing what colors work well together. So, you see as I move it, it picks a complementary color to that. So that can be a really nice way to match your colors. You can use this slider to make it darker or lighter depending on what you need. Now, if we go over here to value, this is a way if you really kind of know what color you want and you know the specific value of it, you can enter in a hex code down here at the bottom. That's if you're very particular, like maybe for your brand or, something like that, they have a very specific color. You can enter in that number right down there. You can also adjust it by moving everything around here. What's also really helpful about this one is that, let's say we pick, a specific color over here. I'm like, I really like that color. And, now I need to know what the hex color is because maybe I need to tell it to someone else or, a business needs it or something like that. I can go over here to value and I can look up what that hex value is. So that way, I can pick the color anywhere here in the panel, but I can still figure out what that specific number is. So that's really helpful. Well, let's talk about one other way to pick your colors that is not related to the color panel. Let's say that I like one of the colors I used in here, but I lost track of it. What I can do is I can put my finger down on my canvas and I can then just have that magnifying glass pick up and it will show me what that color is. If you noticed, it also picked up the yellow. So that's also a good way to see if you're matching your colors appropriately. It will show you whatever color you have selected as well as the one that you're trying to highlight. So we can try again here with the blue. As you can see, it picked up that pink, which is what I had just selected, and also that blue. So it's a good way to match colors. All right, let's talk about custom palettes. If you go over there to the far option, you're going to see a whole bunch of palettes. Some of these are created by Procreate, like these three down here were created by Procreate. I actually did the coloring for this lettering piece of work from this Ascend, basing it off of this Ascend palette right here. I didn't really want to figure it out myself, and these palettes are beautiful, so I did that. An important thing to note is that you will see if you go over to disk or to any of these really, there is one palette that is always below and you'll have really quick access to it. You will set that here in the palettes section and it will always be the default. So let's say I really want to use this Ascend even more. I can click set default. Now it's my default and it will appear below all of the options here down in my colors panel options. Some thing to note is you can create multiple palettes. I only have a few right now. I have a favorites palette and then this one here that I was using for a project. It's just a really good way to keep track of colors if you need to. Just click the plus button and you can create a new palette from any number of options. The way that you manipulate a palette is, let's say I pick a color, let's pick a fun pink or something like that. Let's say I find this really fun pink color that I really like and I want to save it, and I want to save it to my default palette, which currently is my favorites palette. So I'm just going to click on one of the empty squares right there and it pops up and it will be saved. Let's say I don't want it anymore. I can just hold it down. A menu will come up and I can just delete it just like that. All right, so those are the basics of what you need to know for using the Procreate Colors panel. I hope that was helpful. Again, if you really want a deep dive, not only into how to use the Procreate Colors panel, but actually how to pick colors that work well together, check out that Skillshare class. Again, the link is down in the show notes and you can get a free trial and take that for free. All right. I will see you next time on Adventures with Art. Please hit that subscribe button so that you can keep following along.